We are thrilled that you are here. We are so excited, and I just want you to know that there are 62 people in this room, and that is way more than we have ever had in a room before, and they're all here because of you. So we are so excited that you're here. Not to make you nervous or anything.
I was like, I don't need any more encouragement in that department. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, you guys never cease to amaze me, so thank you guys all for being here. So I guess I should introduce myself in case any of you guys don't know who I am. A lot of you I'm scrolling through. I'm like, I know her. I know him. I know her. For giving up your Saturday evening for me. Oh, goodness. So I'm Brittany. I work at Big Cat Rescue. I'm a master keeper, but I'm also a paid staff member there. I'm a meds keeper. I'm a rehab keeper. I'm on the operant conditioning committee. I've been out there for over 6 years now, and it's been life-changing. That's putting it lightly. I literally have a box of tissues sitting next to me because I'm like, I can never talk about my journey without getting like super choked up about it. But super grateful to be here and excited really to see your questions more than me just yammering away about myself. So, but a little bit of background. I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. My husband and I were both animal lovers. That's how we actually met. I was a pet store manager and he was a customer and things flourished over time, and he was actually a volunteer at the Columbus Zoo. He was going to school at Ohio University, and we both lived through the tragedy of Zanesville in 2011. And it was horrible. So we really kind of woke up to like, what in the heck is going on in our society, that like we had to see all these magnificent animals, gunned down in basically our backyard, because we were living in a suburb of Columbus, just 45 minutes away from Zanesville. And so that kind of opened my eyes, and we were really there were a lot of things that my husband wasn't enjoying about being a volunteer at the Columbus Zoo, and he did a summer working at the Wilds, which is affiliated with the Columbus Zoo. So we both started kind of doing some research, and I discovered Big Cat Rescue on YouTube because I found a video that Chris Poole made that featured Joseph the lion and his whole pride, and learning that, oh my God, they came out of Ohio too. Like, what the heck is going on here? We came on vacation down here in Florida in 2012, fell in love with like the Treasure Island, St. Pete area, and we're like, that's the goal right there. So Mark graduated from OU, and we packed up and moved right after that. So we moved down here in 2015. A couple months later, we found, in our way into orientation and became volunteers, and have been involved ever since. I've been a volunteer since 2015. I've been a staff member since 2018. My husband is also a volunteer since 2015. So that's been something really amazing we've gotten to do together. So that's kind of how we found our way to Big Cat. Besides that, I've had an assortment of things I've done prior to this. I actually went to school for graphic design and photography. So I have an associate. You guys know where Sinclair Community College is in Dayton. That's me. And again, my husband graduated from Ohio University. And prior to that, I was a pet store manager. I ran my own photography business, kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything along the way. And one day I just told Carol that I really kind of didn't love my current job here in Florida, and if she ever needed me for anything, I'd be happy to help. So next thing I knew, I was running our Amazon store, which, kind of petered out in 2020 along with a lot of other things, but I picked up, currently I am our online sales manager. I do marketing and fundraising for us, and I'm a social media contributor. I do our Facebook Lives. That's, I think, how I know most of you at this point. I do manage our Instagram. I volunteer all of my photography to Big Cat. We can use it in calendars or for various things. I help run our Shopify store, our Spring store, and most recently our eBay store. So for me, I'm living and breathing these cats every single day, all day long. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. So hopefully you're all still here, and I can't wait to see some of the questions.
Brittany, talk a little bit about your photography and what you enjoy doing with that.
Definitely. So my first job ever, actually, when I was 13, my dad had a golf friend who was a professional photographer and mentioned that that's something that I've always really loved. My grandmother and my mother have always had like a full closet in their house of nothing but albums. And so I've always grown up really loving to reminisce and look through photographs, like physical photographs. So I got really interested. They bought me like a black and white camera, and I had Polaroids and all that kind of stuff. Spent a lot of time taking photos, and then in college took every photography class I could, and I learned originally with black and white film. So dark rooms, the whole 9 yards. Absolutely loved it. If I could afford it, I would have a dark room in my house, but I can't. It's a crazy expensive hobby to have at this point. And there is quite good things with it being digital, and you're like, oh, that one's crap, I can just delete it. I didn't waste a bunch of money developing it. So, but from there, I basically was an assistant. All I did was carry this guy's equipment around and, go to weddings and things like that. And a handful of years later, I saved up, bought my own equipment, started photographing weddings, senior pictures, family portraits, all that type of stuff. Actually, when I met my husband, he became my second shooter, and he would go and just kind of wander around with a digital camera, and then I would edit photos later. That actually then spawned into my mother becoming a realtor. So I started photographing her listings for her. Which is actually the first job. When we moved down here in Florida, I came here with no job, nothing lined up. I just spent the entire rest of the time we were waiting on Mark to graduate saving money so that if I got down here and couldn't have a job for a few months, I could make it work. And my first job here was actually real estate photography for vacation rentals. So 4 different companies down here that if you go on their website and you're trying to book a vacation rental down here, they're my photographs. But I really kind of got tired of, unfortunately, the people that run those types of companies are, kind of full of themselves and super rich, and they don't really care about the little guy. And I've always wanted to make a difference for animals and be around animals. And so as glamorous as photographing beach houses sounds, it's also a ton of work for not as much money as you'd hope. And you kind of get tired of helping the rich get richer. So that's when I hit a point where I'm like, I'm kind of tired of helping this guy get like super rich off of his listings. Please, Carol, if you have anything, let me know. So that's how I transitioned. But I've basically done it all. I've even done like pet photography, like just about anything you can think of. I have photographed it and had an LLC for all of that for a very long time.
I think that's a very cool part of your story.
Yeah.
So what are some of your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing, you and Mark?
Oh boy. Well, like I said, live and breathe the cats and the drive to see the cats and all of that. But pretty much what we like to do in our spare time, and me specifically, like I still really enjoy photography. Like that's never going to change. Even if I'm only doing it on my phone, I might not have my like really nice, DSLR with me or something, but constantly going places. I like being outside, so we go to a lot of nature places and just trying to take pictures in general. I really like blogging. I've always had a blog on the side my whole life, basically, since the internet came around. I'm like, oh, it's like a virtual scrapbook. Everything I do, I'll just throw the photos and a paragraph or two about it. So currently still doing that. We really like thrifting a lot. We've actually, with Jamie and Victor a lot lately, we've been going to estate sales and different things like that. But I really like DIY things, and decorating our house and landscaping and all of that. So we try to stay pretty busy, but we also, I know Deb was hesitant to even ask me to come do this because she's like, I know weekends are precious, because I really do try to unplug on the weekends. But it's also like in my DNA at this point. If I take a picture, I'm probably going to put it on Instagram. So it's still something that like I just love doing, and I do it naturally. So I would say that. And I'm addicted to HGTV. I absolutely love all of the before and afters and things like that. So that's probably where most of my hobbies lie. Still all very like creative, artsy things, pour paintings and creating our own artwork. All of that's been being over in the last couple of years.
And you're a huge Disney fan too, right?
Huge Disney fan, yeah. Yeah, that's never gonna leave me either. When I was a kid, we weren't allowed to have like real TV with the library and rent some VHSs, and that was about it. I couldn't have video games or anything like that, and so I am a Disney kid through and through. My husband and I are pass holders, and it's really fun because he can be a pretty like serious, intense guy. When we go to Disney, you just see him like totally a different person. It's really, really fun for both of us to just like, oh, it's only an hour and a half from home. Let's go lose sight of reality for a day or two. So yes, that's definitely a big part of us too.
I do appreciate you sharing your story, and I appreciate you taking your time to come and talk to us tonight. So before I pull people up, Karen, did you have anything? And I'll start kind of pulling people up here if you have any questions or anything.
I have no questions because Brittany knows I know her very well, and I don't want to eat. Knows I love her, and I talk when I can. I've known her for years because just from coming there, Brittany, right? It's not from online. It's just from Jen and just coming into your office and bringing you stuff and all that.
Absolutely, so, yeah. Here, and in case nobody knows this, my favorite thing I've ever received in my whole life was Karen commissioned a little tiger lily stuffy for me, and it sits on my desk, and I see it every single day. So that's my connection with Karen, is I can just look at that and always know like how much we
Yes, I love her. She knows it, and I'm so happy that you love that.
No.
So we can pass it along to the next person. We're here for you. We're backing you up here, and hopefully get some good questions. Just feel free to answer, and that's it. I'll see you online.
Okay.
I would like to ask, not you, Brittany, but everyone else that's up on stage, if you would please mute your mic so that we don't have a lot of feedback. And if there's anyone else in the audience that wants to come up and ask a question, please hit the little raised hand in the bottom right-hand corner there, and we will get you pulled up on stage here so that you can ask your questions. So for those of you that maybe this is your first time here, I'm so glad that you're here. I've been watching the numbers. We're at 84. Karen, we're at 84. Carol's gonna die when she finds that out.
Carol is gonna be like, what is going on?
But anyway, so I know that there's a lot of you that may be the first time here tonight. So when you pull your screen down with your thumb and it refreshes, it's called PTR, or pull to refresh, and that's kind of the order that we see on the screen, and so that's the order that we will go in as far as questions go. So Daniel, it looks like you're first up. Did you have a question or a comment for Brittany?
Yes. Hi, Brittany. Have you seen, since the Guatemala boys have come, which of them have improved the most, and who's your favorite?
Very good question. Oh boy, those boys are something. I would say, Simba's really the reigning champion at this point, as far as has settled in, has like really good rapport with everybody. Nothing really bothers him. You can kind of do whatever you need to around him, and he's just such a good boy, just taking it in stride. I'm really hoping with the potential upcoming move that we'll see a lot of improvement with Max, but I don't know. I mean, when you see Max go on vacation, he's like a totally different tiger than when he's at home. So I have big hopes for him that if we're going to do some shifting here soon, that will help. My original suggestion was putting him in Outback. He'd almost be like isolated, but for various reasons that I totally understand, we might try switching Simba and Max. Again, always cat time and always when we can have time to figure it all out. But here's my struggle because I'm always the one for the underdog. I'm obsessed with Kimba. Before he ever arrived, myself, Kimba was gonna be my tiger. His story was so sad. Seeing the footage of him being beaten until he was bleeding broke my soul. And so I was like, oh, he's gonna know love. But I will say that he's kind of a brick wall for a lot of people. I have a good rapport with him, but I don't know that other people see the same side of him that I do. So I can't necessarily say he's improved the most, but he definitely has his moments. We do get to see him enjoy things, and it's quite nice from the day that he arrived. So I'd have to say I think Simba's still doing the best out of everybody. I'm gonna hold true that Kimba's my favorite, but I'm not gonna lie, Simba really has been stealing my heart a little bit. He's just so silly and playful and likes to surprise people, and he's just, very social. So I know he is a lot of our keepers' favorites out of the three for sure.
Yeah, Simba's my favorite too. He's the first cat I sponsored.
Nice. Well, thank you for doing that.
All right, thank you, Daniel. That was a great question. Barbara, did you have a question or a comment for Brittany?
Hi, Brittany. Not really more of a, I guess a comment, yeah. I always end up watching your lives on replay because you start your lives right when I start work. So a lot of times will be able to sneak in right away and say, hey, good morning, everybody, and then I have to punch in. But what I really like about what is you allow us to hear the animals. You allow them when Nikki is roaring and you're nearby. You let us hear that. You don't talk over it. And I've watched some other lives from other sanctuaries, and they'll be, the lions are caroling, and they're like, oh, and that is so-and-so lion, and he came to us at this time, and that is, I'm like, no, we want to hear him caroling, So I want to thank you for not talking. I know it feels weird when you do video when you're not saying anything because you feel kind of funny, but I want to just say thank you for doing that because it's so nice to hear the sounds of the sanctuary, and it's kind of fun to have those Zen moments that have too, where you just sit there with some of the cats. So thank you very much.
I really love to hear that because honestly, if I could walk around and say nothing to anyone, I wouldn't. I would just let the cats do the talking for me. But we all know that there's plenty of people that show up that kind of need explanations and things like that. But I appreciate that feedback a lot because, of course, right now the cicadas have taken over everything, so you can't hear anything but them. But thank you. I appreciate hearing that a lot because I do think that even though voices can't really tell you what they're thinking and what needs done, they do kind of tell you in a weird way. So yay for Zen moments. Thank you.
Hi, Dawn. Did you have a question or comment for Brittany?
I do. Hello, everybody. Hi, Brittany. My question is, for the rehab team, when did you decide that you wanted to join the rehab team? I have to say, you guys are just amazing. The rehab team, Big Cat Rescue, every single person, you guys are just amazing. And the rehab team, again, I just wanted to find out about, what made you join the rehab team. I know, the passion have, but what grabbed your attention for the rehab team?
I love that question. So for me, it was pretty apparent my very first release that I ever went on. I was a yellow shirt. At the time, we were obviously pre-COVID and things like that. At the time, Jamie would put out a post and say, hey, we're going to release a rehab. It's 2 to 3 hours from the sanctuary. I have room for 6 people to go or something like that. And I'd seen it happen when I was a red shirt, but like red shirt back when I started is very different than it is now, because our whole program has kind of changed because of COVID. But when I first started, you only did about 4 hours a week in the gift shop. And so I wasn't as invested or motivated at the time because I was still trying to like get my feet on the ground, having just moved here and income and things like that. But when we were fresh, Mark and I both got chosen to go on a release for Spirit Feather. And we went, it was like 3.5 hours away. So it was like a 7-hour round trip drive, and you're crammed in a with like 8 other rescuers, and it was just like this fun bonding time. And I remember watching her run to freedom, sobbing because like you're around these caged cats all day long, and to see one finally just like, okay, bye, like yay, your life. I couldn't even like grasp what I had seen. I had actually been around some bird rescues, and I've seen other things released in the past, but not apex predator like cats, that do belong out in the wild. And so that was the turning point for me, knowing that you couldn't be qualified to be in the rehab program until you had been a senior keeper, so a green shirt for a year or a level 5 intern. I basically came home that day and added it to my list of goals, that someday I want to be a rehabber. And that happened almost to the day. I was a green shirt for a year to the day, and I mentioned to Jamie, I'm like, hey, I know the spots are tight because it's only one person each day, so there's only 7 slots. Jamie has one of those slots, so technically there's only 6. And everybody was pretty well established in the program, so I mentioned it, and then Jamie put it out there in the rehab group, a private group that we have, and said, hey, Brittany's interested in joining. Is there anyone who's been doing this for a while that would want to step away to let her join? And my girl, Lauren Buckingham, another staff member, she's actually the oldest rehabber besides Jamie herself, decided that, hey, I'd really love to give her this opportunity, and she stepped away to join. So that's how I actually got in. And then eventually Lauren stepped away and Lauren stepped back in. So I did get to actually rehab alongside Lauren for quite a while. And then she just stepped away again to give our level 5 interns a chance. So that was really, really a gracious, wonderful moment for me. And that's pretty much how I got involved.
That's amazing. Thanks for that story.
Brittany, I have a question. It's Shannon, by the way. Of course, my profile picture is your favorite boy, but out of Jinx, who is your favorite?
So, that is always a tough one. My favorite is a top 5 because I have cats that I chose as my favorite, and then I have cats that chose me that I didn't really see it coming. And I've also had to obviously readjust because my favorites from 6 years ago are no longer with us. So I've had to keep kind of like, ebb and flow with that. So I always say I can't pick just one. There's actually like a top 2. But if I had to do a top 5, I chose Smalls, and thank God she chose me back. I love Jinx, of course. Cyrus actually chose me, but of course I chose him right back. And same thing with Hutch. And then Kali is my girl. So that's my top 5. I can't really choose one specific one. And then I even feel guilty about doing that because I'm like, there's silly things I love about Moses that, like, you know, I'll never take for granted and stuff like that. So that I'll have to stand by my top 5 for right now.
Well, you know, we all know it's small because she marked you.
Yeah, yeah. But she was like the 4th one to mark me. So that's what was interesting. She was a holdout for a while.
Thank you for sharing, Brittany.
Of course.
I love all the cats, just like you.
Chad, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Moderators, good evening to Brittany. I just want to say to Brittany, thank you for your dedication first to Big Cat Rescue. I just want to thank this lady from the bottom of my heart because I personally pray for this lady every day. She goes on the live. If she's got bad allergies, she goes live. If she's almost got a sprain or broken foot, she goes live. If she's almost broken down body, she goes live. If a cat's hurting or broke down, she gets in the hospital and goes live and produces an update. Brittany Mira, thank you for every live that you do, and thank you for your devotion to Big Cat Rescue. I'll always love you for your dedication and your devotion for the cats. And that's what got me to loving Big Cat Rescue. And it's an honor for me to be part of your team and to be a voice for the cats. And I'll go this far to say, I'll be like you. I walk with a cane, but guess what? If the cats need me to walk until I fall down, I'll fall down. Because that's how much I love Big Cat Rescue. And Brittany, you've been on my heart. I pray for you daily. I love you so much. And thank you. And please tell Dr. Justin Borstein, thank you from the bottom of your heart for all the love that you do for the cats. And thank you so much. He's been working so hard with the cats, and so have you. And thanks to all the volunteers and keepers at Big Cat Rescue. I just wanted to say, always love you. I'll always love the job that you do, and you're doing a wonderful job. And keep it up, and I love you, Brittany.
Oh my gosh, Chad, thank you. I knew I brought a box of tissues for a reason.
I was going to say, Brittany, that obviously I think a lot of people feel that way because look at the group that you have here today. You're amazing, and Chad said it all. So
he really sure did.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad. I really appreciate that.
Go get him, Brittany.
I will. Don't you worry.
Honey. Go get him.
I'm going to be here. Don't you worry. Oh, goodness.
Well, does everybody now need a timeout for a Kleenex?
A little bit, yes. No. I'm just kidding. Keep it coming.
Thank you, Chad. That was very heartfelt, and I appreciate that because I think we all feel that way. Melissa, how about you?
Well, Brittany, we do love you and thank you for your lives every day. I am so glad to be a part of the moderator team. My question to you is, you had mentioned a blog that you do every day. Is it a public blog or is it a private blog that you do to yourself for yourself?
Yeah, so my husband and I have sort of a blog that we do just about us living here in St. Pete and the things that we do. It is public, and then I've over the years that are more like photography blogs where it's just like whatever I did that week kind of gets spewed out there. But now that's kind of on my Instagram, so I haven't really done that a lot lately. But yeah, we started a silly little blog that actually Jamie and Victor helped us, inspired us to do because we all went to the beach one day and we kept finding these massive sand dollars, and we were just like, this is incredible. And I was like, if sand dollars made you rich, I'd be the richest. And we were all like, that sounds like a lifestyle blog. So my husband and I started a blog called Sunshine and Sand Dollars. So it is public. You could find it out there. But otherwise, I do a lot of my stuff on Instagram, or honestly, if it involves the cats, I funnel it through our public Instagram for Big Cat Rescue.
Melissa, she has her own Sunshine and Sand Dollars Instagram as well. So you can find it there if you're on Instagram. Bella, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'll definitely have to check that out. I appreciate it. Thank you for everything you do.
Hi, Bella. How are you this evening? Do you have a question for Brittany?
Yes, I do. Hi, Brittany, hon. I've got a strange question. It could be rescue from the rehab, or even, from the cats that are there. Which cat was your most memorable rescue that, in ways, could have either broke your heart because of the story behind why they were saved, and was it enough to motivate you to even fight even harder for even more cats along the way, even if it was your first cat there when you first came to Big Cat Rescue, or even like now?
That's an incredible question. Oh goodness. I mean, I could answer it in multiple ways. Like, the one that motivated me the most before I really was even a volunteer was Joseph Lion. I just thinking about them being declawed, defanged, used the way that they were, and how majestic he was, and his whole pride was just amazing. But I only ever got to meet Joseph. I never even got to in person meet any of the others. While I've been there, seeing the rescue come in, that probably affected me the most and makes me want to keep fighting as hard as I'm fighting. It's definitely the Colorado rescue. So that would have been Seth, Tiger, Andy, Gabby, Priya, and Shiraka. And knowing that Priya is our last one left. Seth was he was my whole heart. So I carry him with me every day for sure. As far as the rehab team, honestly, the most memorable rescue so far, there's been quite a few. Unfortunately, I've been on more rescues where we find the cat and they're already deceased, or they can't be saved. So that has been really eye-opening and really tough. Watching these little ones that never even had a chance not make it, it's really, really rough. But I would say Romeo is probably the one that is why I keep fighting, because when we found him, he was in such bad condition. He was just laying in a flower bed in the front of just a regular neighborhood, like, street house. Dog was in the window barking, like, get this thing out of my yard, and I didn't think he was going to make it. I thought he'd be a euthanasia case. He just seemed like he was never going to regain strength or be able to run and walk and stand and all of that, but he was still really fierce. And then actually getting to release him not long after his rescue was really, really memorable. So that definitely keeps me going on the rehab side, because we have had a lot of losses, not only with permanent residents, but obviously in the rehab program, just in my short time. And I always try to remind myself, I'm like, God, I've only been doing this years. And then I look at somebody like Jamie or Carol, and I'm like, if they're still going, I'm going to be going right alongside of them. Like, it hurts and it sucks, and you have your meltdown days where you're just like, I'd rather just stay in bed. But you can't do that, because there's not much you can do if you just, sit back and do nothing. So I would say that's probably the three things that stand out the most for me at this point.
Thank you very much, Brittany, and I'm sorry to make you tear up on that.
That's okay. It's good to talk to you, though, Bella.
It is too.
Bye.
Hi, Susan. How are you?
Great, thank you, Deb.
Did you have a question for Brittany?
I always have questions. But Brittany, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for everything you do for rescue and all its inhabitants, both human and cats and otherwise. I'd also want to say thank you, and I think I'm not the only one who has really been relying on your lives on making it through hard times, both personally but also with COVID and lockdown. Your lives were a lifesaver for many. And I was wondering, when you started at Big Cat Rescue as a volunteer, being there a few times maybe, what was it like was reality different than you expected, and what were your experiences? You talked about it a bit online, but maybe not everybody heard it, so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you for asking. Yeah, I mean, I'll be totally honest. When you join a new organization, something that's a well-oiled machine that's been really established, like you can sometimes it feels cliquey, or sometimes it feels like, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough to be around all these people that you think are so amazing and doing all these amazing things. And it can be hard when you first start out in the old volunteer program, because it was a lot of just learning to do guided tours or working in the gift shop, and you don't really feel, you're like, oh, I'm not really like helping the animals, but you are. I mean, you don't realize that you're touching all the people that are on your tours, and when you're selling the merchandise, you're helping support the cats and things like that. I was very blessed that I had my husband with me, because we're built-in best friends, so we had each other to but it didn't take long before you start finding all the like-minded people. And a couple of my very best friends are now Big Cat people that I met along the way that did a lot of my training when I first started. And honestly, that first slap in the face when you start losing cats, and it's that hit of reality where you're like, oh yeah, we're rescuing abandoned, abused, neglected animals they have a ticking clock for how long they might be around. They've got a ton of health issues. A story from my childhood is when I was little, my life goal was to be a vet. I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was I was diehard about it. I have a vet on my dad's side of the family that when I got old enough, I would go kind of intern or at least hang out with her over the summers. And she also worked with livestock and really large animals like horses. And the first few times we went places, and I had to watch her tell owners, you're on borrowed time, or this animal probably needs to be put down. And that heartbreak of it all, in my youth, I was like, oh, I can't handle that. That feels like a whole job where you're just telling people bad news and you're putting down people's pets. I can't do that. And then the older I got, I realized, I still want to be involved with animals, and that is a part of life. And when you get into the rescue world, my goodness, you see some just disturbing, horrible things. And so as I finally grew up, I started getting a tougher skin, and, but you kind of lose sight of it. You're like, oh, I'm going to go just be a volunteer to rescue, which means we just get to spoil these cats and take care of them. But then it's like, oh yeah, you still have to see the dark side of it all, or the sad side of it all. And then I became a meds keeper, which is like, oh yeah, every one of these cats needs meds because they had something horrible happen to them over time, or they were neglected, or they're just getting super old now. And that is really hard to face. So that's been really difficult. But when you build a family unit, you can't go anywhere and expect to get along with every single person you meet, even if you're all in the same, group or whatever. But for the most part, we're a ride or die family, and we're always going to support each other. So yeah, I mean, it was bumpy in the beginning, just getting used to how it all worked, and it's hard to get your sign-offs, and it's hard to progress through the program, but it's so worth it when you see certain outcomes, and you meet the people that you do. I went there for the cats, and then you kind of stay for the people that you connect with along the way too. So I hope that answers what you asked. I could ramble all night, guys. So
yeah, we love it. So thank you very much. And quickly, what are your final goals for Big Cat Rescue now? Because you obviously attained the Master Keeper level.
Yep, I sure did. I'm about a couple weeks in now on that. So I had a very simple list, and then at like each level I would kind of add something new. I want to tell everybody what my final goal is, the only one that I've never technically achieved, but I also don't want to stir anything up because I know it's a big question a lot of people want to know, as far as like, are we going to keep rescuing cats and things like that? So I won't really get into that because our focus is ending this issue with the Big Cat Public Safety Act, and I know that's what our mission is. The last thing I have written in my notebook is to go on a permanent rescue because I've technically never done that. I have seen cats come in that have become permanent rescues, but I was not part of the team that physically drove across the country or flew across the country or, went to a place and caught a cat out of a dilapidated, terrible environment and brought them back to, give them the best life. I mean, I've seen some great rescues come in. Hoover was the first cat that I ever watched arrive at Big Cat, and that was pure magic. Again, the Colorado cats, Nabisco and Smalls' group with Kelowna and Dryden, and the late cougars that we got from there. Obviously the Guatemala boys and Aria, my goodness. And I didn't even know Aria was coming. I'll be totally honest with you guys. I was in Belize on an anniversary trip with my husband, and we get back on the plane to head home, and we're like, my God, we've got 4 new cats plus Aria. What happened? And I missed all of those. So I, as a staff member and a master keeper, I would really like to go on a permanent rescue. And then I have a couple other goals. I'm just not making them public yet.
Thank you very much for sharing.
Of course.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you, Susan. Hi, Chris. Do you have a question?
Hi, Deb. Yes. Okay, is it Karen? Thank you. Hi, Brittany. I just want to say thank you so much for everything you do. Shad said it all. We love you. And taking one of the private tours with you is definitely one of my highlights of coming to BCR. On one of my trips. So thank you again. So you inspire us. So many of us, and I'm glad to be part of the moderators team as well. My questions are quite, I think, pretty light. So the first question is, from the current cats, who's the easiest for you to photograph and who's the hardest? I have one more question. I'll say that now. When the marsh rabbit, the Rehab, was released, was he or she released at PCR or elsewhere?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, we had 2 different rabbits come through. We had Boo Boo and Boops. And they were actually 2 different species, but both of them were actually released at BCR. What we did is, if you guys watched the home tour or any of the other rehab tours we've done, there's cage 1, which is where Kahira and Birdie currently are. Cage 2 has Nakoa right now. Cage 3 has Pia and Bankman. And cage 4 is right against the lake. And the only thing I've ever seen us put in that enclosure is actually the rehab bunnies. And Jamie set up trail cams for that. And we basically, once we knew for sure that they were foraging and doing really well in that small section of that cage, we pretty much just opened the door. So they live somewhere at BCR. They're most likely still out in the rehab area. There's actually several times a week I'll be going down the rehab road and I will see a bunny off in the distance, and then it just darts into the grass. So there's a good chance that they're probably still there. There's a possibility they live in Kitten Karma's yard now because she's on the other side of the fence from rehab. So yes, they were released there, and I'm pretty sure they're still hopping around because I've been seeing quite a few lately.
Thanks, Brittany. I think we saw a couple of bunnies on one of the lives too. I think maybe
Yes,
Saturday.
yeah. There's a mama that had some babies in Amanda Tiger's last bubble, the one closest to the enrichment barn. And when they went out mowing and weed eating, they found the little nest. So then we locked her out of that section for a couple of weeks and then would periodically keep checking. And then once all the babies weren't there anymore, then she had access again. So there seems to be quite a good population of them going right now.
Thanks, Brittany.
Before we move on, I just want to publicly say Chris is our superstar overnight. Our overnight, not hers. But she really has helped the firewall team on that main page overnight. So publicly, I need to say thank you very much, Chris.
Yay, thank you so much, Chris. No, I see Chris all the time, and I'm just like, yay, get it. Get it done.
Thank you.
Brittany, I think she had a couple of other questions before the bunny question about who was the easiest to photograph and who was the hardest.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. You said bunnies, and I'm like, I love bunnies, and that was really fun to do. So, oh goodness, easiest to photograph? Honestly, the cats that aren't super into me and come right over and get all in my face are the easiest ones to photograph. The hardest ones to photograph are the ones like Cyrus, who immediately to the side, Smalls only shows me her butt, all my favorites tend to be really hard to photograph. So I guess the best way to answer it would just be based off of, if I pulled up my hard drive of all the photos of current cats, probably the one I've photographed the most, and I have the most photos of, is Jinx. And I probably take so many of him because he's actually very difficult to photograph, because being what appears to be solid black and the way he blends into things, sometimes your camera can't even find him to focus on. He really is magic. He's this figment of your imagination. And that I would say he's been the most difficult, which is why I take so many of him. But it's definitely the cats that really love me are the hardest for me to photograph generally.
Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you.
Hi, Mary. Did you have a question or comment? Mary, can you unmic yourself? Or unmute yourself, sorry. Oh, Mary disappeared. Diana, how about you?
Hang on.
Oh, you muted yourself. You need to unmute yourself.
Hi, Brittany. Okay, my question is, if you could highlight the most rewarding experience you've had since being at Big Cat Rescue, what would it be?
That's an amazing question also. It's always hard for me to pinpoint the one and most significant of anything, because almost everything touches me super deeply and I carry it with me always. So I would have to say when Aria came in for her very first surgery, that was probably, which is crazy because I was already a staff member and I was already a senior keeper green shirt. But just seeing the abuse that up close and personal and fresh it probably hit me the hardest and made me want to keep fighting as hard as possible. And it was one of the most recent things that I've been through. But I've had other situations where, I'm just the keeper that is feeding or cleaning that day. And I note something on, the cat's chart about, okay, well, this cat's acting kind of funny. And then before I know it, they're in a procedure that is saving them from major future issues. And probably, I would say with Andy Bobcat, I was actually training Bridget on feeding her first time ever, and I remember telling her how important it is to be watching the cats at every moment before, during, and after they're eating, especially with a really elusive cat like a bobcat. And we watched her try to jump into like a den platform, so she had to jump like 2 or 3 feet to get in it, and she basically kind of jumped and fell on her side and just was not acting right. So I was like, okay, this is a situation where you call the coordinator immediately. Well, next thing I know, she's being captured, taken into the hospital, and she's had a stroke. So things like that have taught me over time to like watch every little detail and let people know immediately. And as weird as it is, a lot of the times when I log something, like I notice that the vet is there like that day, or they're at least like, hey, everyone watch this situation. So that's been significant for me, is knowing that like, don't ever just think, oh, that was probably nothing. Like whether it's nothing or not, I still tell people about it. But I would say those are the significant, as a keeper, things that I've experienced along the way. But I think Aria takes the cake for me as far as like truly opening my eyes to like really recent, just this is why we're going to keep fighting no matter what, is her story.
Thank you for answering that. Just one more here. I know for me, one of the scariest things I witnessed was when Ryza was having her seizures. And what is the most scariest thing that you've experienced in your time at the sanctuary?
For me personally, being there to like witness it, like start to finish and be a part of it all, was probably honestly when Mrs. Claus attacked Nabisco. Nabisco's my baby boy. He was the youngest rescue to date I had ever seen come in. He was my full-time operant cat. And just seeing him so helpless and so hurt was obviously a really, really big issue. And then secondly, I would say everything that involved Hoover with his cancer and removing of his toe, and maybe that's because my husband was so connected to him too, that I had to really, I was a meds person at that point, so it was always all eyes on Hoover and how is he acting and how is he feeling. So it's probably between those two circumstances. I'll knock on wood to say that I've never actually seen, luckily, a cat have a seizure out there. I've seen videos of it after the fact, so I at least know what to look for. I actually found Tom one morning after she had had one. I didn't see it happen, but I could clearly tell that that's what had happened. So you just never know. I mean, that is the hardest thing about being a keeper, is knowing that, it can be all sunshine and smiles, but then all of a sudden it can be like a real dark day.
Thank you. Thank you, Fran.
Hi, Jim. Welcome. Did you have a question or a comment for Brittany?
Yeah, just one question and a couple of comments. First of all, I fully sympathize with you, Brittany, with your situation at home, with the predators that you have laying siege to your swimming pool.
Yep.
But yeah, it is nice seeing updates on how your squirrel buddy's doing. Regarding the lives, I was a wildlife biology major, so it is awesome to see your lives and to see the different behaviors that they do and exhibit. So I really do enjoy watching the lives and the perspective that you give there. My question regarding rehab, and I've asked this a couple of times, but it's always been right at the end of a session, so I don't think it's gotten through. If you guys ever got one of the Florida mountain lions for rehab, what changes to like the bobcat program that you have with that involved?
They're going to be much bigger and scarier. So the good thing about that is going into them building the enclosures the way they did, they were always designed to be able to handle a larger cat if needed. That's always been something that Jamie and Carol have been open to. I know here very recently, I can't go into a ton of detail because, again, I don't have all the details, but I know that Jamie is in discussions with the FWC about collaring our first ever bobcats so that we can actually watch where they're going and see how they're forming, territories and family and things like that, because there is a life-threatening illness that has been plaguing a lot of the bobcats and panthers here in Florida. So because of their discussions, Jamie has made it very, very clear that moving forward, if the FWC needs to place Florida Panthers for rehab, we are very interested, and they need to stop ignoring us for other facilities where they end up not being released. They end up just being a permanent on display resident somewhere. So she did get to have her moment where she really drove that home. Look how successful our Bobcat program has been. We could help with the Florida Panthers. So I really don't know, though, to be totally honest, how the program will change, because I know the cages are initially designed to house something larger, but, every Bobcat we get in is totally different. There's never been two. I've been doing this for a little over 2 years now, and there's never been two Bobcats that we've done the exact same way, because they all come in with something broken or some kind of weird ailment. Here, we never in a million years, even most people in this state have never seen a case of the Khaleesi virus, which is what we just lost the 3 babies to. So no idea really how that will go. It's always going to be in the moment and consulting with experts along the way as far as how that will go. But are we open to it? Yes. Are we capable of it? Yes. We just have to basically, in the same way the Bobcat program has formed, trial and error along the ways, a lot of talking to other people around the country that have done things. Jamie has a huge network. She has spoken the last couple of years at, various rehab summits and things around the country. So she's got a very progressive program laid out. So it's hard to say how it would change. I know it would be different, of course, but are we ready and prepared to do it? Yes, we are, definitely.
Thank you.
Of course.
Nancy, last but not least, do you have a question for Brittany?
Yes, and I'm sorry also that I raised my hand prematurely earlier and had my car engine running and the thing was unmuted and so forth. Hi, Brittany. It's good to talk to you. I wanted to tell you that I first became aware of Big Cat Rescue in 2020, of course, like a lot of people did. I didn't watch certain things. I just wasn't attracted to watch those things. I didn't care for the demeanor of some people involved, and just got online and said, well, I'm going to find out what the other side's about, and looked up Carol's name and found Big Cat Rescue. I didn't even know, the name of the sanctuary or anything, and just started watching some of your old lives and falling in love with cats. And I had grown up in the late night talk show era where they brought animals on, and I'd heard the conservation lies and bought them, and I had heard they were abandoned or injured or whatever and couldn't be released lies and bought them, and I just didn't know. 58 years old and I didn't know. And watching your lives really opened my eyes to all that and just completely changed my life with that. And so now I just try to advocate in any way that I can on Facebook or whatever and talking to people. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We need more people like you then, Nancy.
So, what you've done has really made a difference. And I had a couple of questions, and they may have the same answer. I don't know. But one is, what is your favorite Jinx story? And two, could you relate the story, I think 3 weeks ago, where you happened upon him one morning when you were doing your live, and he was getting ready for his keeper to come, so he was already doing his flat cat thing. I hope you remember that one.
Yeah, Jinx has countless magical stories. Honestly, probably my favorite Jinx story to date is just the first time I ever saw him in real life. I knew they had arrived, but again, at that point in time, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when they first arrived, we were just calling them witness protection cats. We didn't even have, fake names to call them. We had nothing to say about them for quite a while, and you were not permitted to take photos or videos. Eventually that loosened up, and you could take, photos or videos, but you could never ever share them publicly, and we would allow guests to take photos, but we couldn't really tell people about them. In the very beginning, we didn't have anything to call them. Eventually we put out a poll, and the volunteers put in suggestions, and then everybody voted, and that is how our 4 witness protection cats got their names at that time. That's not what happened with Arya. I'm not sure. I feel like Carol might have named Arya. I don't know. Game of Thrones fans, we all are, but so I don't totally know the story on that one, but I know that it was really cool that we all got to have that opportunity to throw out a name, because my husband and I both suggested Jasmine, so maybe we could take credit for that. I don't know. But with Jinx, the first time we ever met Jinx was on a night tour. And it's back when we were giving a night tour once a month, and you would come in and you'd have a guide and a backup that would walk just a handful of people around at night. And you had a couple of flashlights, and it was really cool. You used to be able to see the flying squirrels, and you would see the bobcats out chasing each other and doing all their night things that they do. But the first time I ever saw Jinx, he was flat catting in the dark, and all you saw were those eyes projecting through your soul. And I remember telling Mark, I don't know what the heck that was, but I can't wait to see him in the daylight, because that was incredible. And yeah, it just, ever since then, I've been enamored with him. He's absolutely amazing.
That's such a great story. And can you tell what he did that morning? Do you remember that?
I don't. I'm not sure which morning this is. I spent so many mornings with him. I'd love for you to tell me what you saw.
The one where he was a little frustrated that you had caught him. And
Yes, he definitely gave me are you serious? You just found me. Now I have to go reset. He walked all the way back to the other end to reset so he could stalk the next keeper. Yep, that's Jinx.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Well, Brittany, I really appreciate you taking your time tonight, and we have managed to keep this to an hour and 1 minute. I am impressed that we were able to do that, because I wasn't sure we would be able to, but I know that that's Carol's goal, is to keep it at as close to an hour as we can. So, thank you guys all for the wonderful questions. I learned a lot tonight, and I thought it was just wonderful, and I really appreciate you being here, Brittany.
I just wanted to say one more thing. Brittany, you had mentioned that when you are ready to give up at times, or not maybe give up, but just it gets hard being an advocate and you being on property all the time. It's so difficult, I'm sure. So much more difficult for us looking in from, I'm across, I'm up so far north, and we see what you see, but you're there, and that's a little different. And you said you turned to Carol and Jamie, and you think, well, they've been doing this for so many years, I can do this. I want to thank you for that, because there's times when, I have 2 ferals in my yard right now. I have cats in my house that have been saved from horrible situations. So I do TNR. I do all kinds of things also on the side. It is so hard to see the abuse and to come back, wake up every day and go back. You always have a smile on your face. You cheer us up from afar. And I hope that you're always there for us, because it's so nice to have you in those, those mornings when we're just waking up too. Well, half of us on the East Coast are just waking up. And I just wanted to thank you for being there through all that difficulty. And like you said, Hoover's my favorite. the things that you had to do just in that one tiger situation, multiply by that by 6 times all the other animals that have been there for those years. And I just want to thank you for that, for all of us, because you are an inspiration to us, and it means a lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I couldn't do any of this without you guys, because there are plenty of days where I'm like, how am I supposed to be cheery? And like, you know, you all know that I always take at least one full day after we've lost a cat or there's been something traumatic. But like, just in the last 6 weeks, the roller coaster ride that has been Summer Bobcat, there are some days where I'm just like, God, I don't want to repeat the same answer that I answer every day for the last 3 years. And so I do tend to sometimes just turn off the comments, or sometimes Facebook's like, you don't need to see comments and it won't work anyway. But it's because of you guys that we can keep people interested, and you guys are the ones answering the bulk of the questions and taking some of that pressure off of me so that I can just walk around with a camera and show people and not cry on, I always want to say national TV, but it's like Facebook Live is like so much bigger than national TV that it can be a little overwhelming. So it's if I didn't have you guys, I wouldn't be able to keep doing what I'm doing either. So all of you, we're all in the same boat. Like, we're all in this together, and I just really appreciate that you guys, you know, came over to hang out for an hour on a Saturday, and that you do that in the mornings with me during the week, and I just really, really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Well, thank you guys, everyone, for joining tonight. We had a lot of new people tonight. That was wonderful. I was so glad you were here. So we do this every Saturday night at 6 o'clock for about an hour. Brittany probably won't show up every week, but but we have some really great conversations. And normally Carol is here, but she is at the premiere of the conservation game tonight, and so she could not be here with us. But normally she is with us. I think most every other week she's been able to be here. But anyway, come back and join us again. Like I said, it's at 6 o'clock on Saturday nights, Eastern time, every Saturday night. And we always come up with something fun. So please be sure and join us. Karen, anything else?
No, that's it. Thanks, everybody. I say it was so much fun, but we hit every emotion. I think we cried, we laughed.
We sure did.
We did it all tonight, everything.
Yes.
So
and I do want to just mention, because I felt guilty about this during last year's walkabout. Like, I did a Zoom meeting with about 10 women that had so many great questions, but I only had about an hour to answer it. If you guys ever have questions, you can always reach out to Karen or Deb, and they can send them my direction, and I'm happy to talk to you guys or answer, or, you know, I can definitely, you know, do this every once in a while. So it was great, and I don't mind coming back to answer anything lingering for you guys. So thank you very much.
thank you so much. And of course you can come. Between Deb and I think we cover, I can't even imagine how many hours. I don't even want to know. So we're here all the time. So anything. We're here for whatever anybody needs.
Yes, we are. I think we about cover the 24 hours, don't we, Karen? Between the two of us.
I would say you do.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
So much.
Thank you guys all for joining, and have a wonderful Saturday night.
Don't worry,
Thank you for everybody else.
your days. It's our home free. Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata?
Yeah, it's our motto.
What's the motto?
Nothing. What's the matter with you? You know what?